Don't worry. Don't think about it. You look beautiful, Lisa. That's all.
Well, I wore orange. Orange is abundance.
Okay.
So gotta mix it up.
All right, everyone. Welcome to today's International Women's Day LinkedIn Live. It's also streaming on YouTube and inside Women Thought Leadership Facebook group. And I'm very excited to be joined by 5 of my members from Her Success Society, and some of them are also members of my LinkedIn Thought Leadership Academy. And what better way to celebrate International Women's Day than bringing all these amazing women together? If you're watching this live, introduce yourself in the comments of this live and let us know where you're calling in from. We want to make this interactive. But without further ado, I'm going to have each of my guests introduce themselves, tell us what you do, where you live, and then I'll introduce myself at the end. So go ahead. Let's just follow the order that you see on the screen.
Okay, so I should start first.
Yeah, go ahead, Lisa.
Hello, everyone. Happy International Women's Day. My name is Lisa R. Mitchell, and I'm the principal of Living a Global Lifestyle, a global brand and community for people who want to live a global lifestyle. They want to be an expat, digital nomad, traveler, which I've been for over 20 years. I help them figure out how they can have the best life abroad they can, specifically in the areas of financial services and how to manage your finances when you move abroad, because I was an international banker for like over 20 years. So that's me, and I'm coming to you from sunny Brooklyn. No snow or anything. Brooklyn, New York.
Hi, I'm Isabel. And Naina, I think Hope is back. She's saying she joined. She's backstage. I just wanted to let you know. I saw that in the private chat. Hi, I'm Isabel Perichou. So I live in the San Francisco Bay Area. So we see San Francisco from my window. Side. I'm originally from France, as you can probably tell from my accent and my name. And I have my own business. I do career reinvention coaching for executives and high achieving professionals. And in particular, I work with, so executives or professionals in mid-careers who have reached some level of success, but they have lost passion for the industry or their work, or maybe they never had passion for what they do, and they are looking for something that really makes a difference and bring their talents to the world. And I help them discover what is the work that brings that passion and makes a difference.
So Hope, I think you just joined us, and sorry, I didn't see you below in the stream. But what we're doing right now, happy International Day.
I've been tracking it, so I know we're doing some short introductions.
So go ahead.
I've just been stuck backstage.
So welcome. So just introduce yourself, where you're calling in from, and where you're based. And then we'll have Julia and Brandy after that. And thanks, Lisa and Isabel, for those great introductions. Go ahead.
Sure.
Great. Thanks, Nina. I'm Hope Timberlake. I live in Mill Valley, California, enjoying a bit of sun for the moment. I am a speaker, trainer, and author of the book, Speak Up, Damn It, How to Quiet Your Fears, Polish Your Presence, and Share Your Voice. And I'm so excited to be here with Isabel and Lisa and Julie and Brandy, all of you, because we want to cherish and amplify women. So this is a great day.
Great. Well, I'm Julia Biabout. I'm the CEO and creative director of NovaBuy. We are an augmented reality studio based in Seattle and San Francisco. And we work with communities, organizations, brands to kind of bring their ideas to life in mobile phone-based augmented reality.
Awesome. I'm Brandy Stevens, based in the DFW, Fort Worth, Dallas area of Texas. It is sunny here today, so I'm excited about that. Background is in talent acquisition and really leading diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging efforts. Currently in the startup space and focusing on being able to level the playing field and really being able to focus on bringing in more inclusion, primarily women, of course, and people of minority backgrounds.
Awesome. So you can see we have an amazing group of women. I see a lot of people joining us here in the chat. Again, Elisa, Isabel, Hope, Julia, Brandy, you can jump into the chat as well and say hello to Rachel, Reka, Eshetu is joining us from Ethiopia. It's all really cool.
Wow.
We have
Oh,
a
wow.
very, really cool. So and I'm sure with the people who'll watch the recording later. So my name is Naina Kaputi. And I see Tripti, my friend from India, who I've known for many, many years, is now in Dublin, Ireland, and is joining us. Hi, Tripti. So my name is Naina Kaputi. As I mentioned before, I run 2 memberships. So I'm the founder of Her Success Society, which is a membership to help purpose-driven professional women elevate and showcase their expertise, their thought leadership, and get seen, get known, and get heard. And then I created an add-on, which is the LinkedIn Thought Leadership Academy, to help professional women who are building their thought leadership to use LinkedIn to elevate further their thought leadership and reach a larger audience. Yesterday, I taught a workshop on how women leaders can build their tables on LinkedIn, because that's what I've been doing. I've been building my table on LinkedIn and also inviting other women to be part of my table. Like today, all these amazing women are part of the table that I've built. And I love spotlighting women because I feel, if we showcase each other's expertise, we can inspire so many more in the community. And in the last 3 years, I also kind of pivoted into becoming a LinkedIn coach, trainer, and consultant. And I'm also the founder of the Expat Woman, which is how I met Lisa, which is an organization to help immigrant professionals all over the world navigate living life abroad. So with that, let's talk about, finding our zone of genius, right? That's the first step in amplifying, spotlighting, celebrating our successes and other women's successes. So I'd love to, and this time maybe we'll go backwards. We'll go from Brandy, Julia, Hope, Isabel, and Lisa. How did you find your niche, your area of expertise, your zone of genius? How did you find it, and how are you using it today? And people in the audience, if you found your zone of genius, share it in the comments. So go ahead, Brandy.
This is an awesome question. So for me, how I found to come about my quote zone of genius, what is it that I'm passionate about? What keeps me up at night? What would I do if I didn't get paid for it? What kind of drives and motivates me? That's how I determine my zone of genius. For me, I am a people person. I love meeting new people. I love to help others as well. And through that, I said, well, what can I do to in my current role professionally, what can I currently do to help those efforts? And DEIB was something that became to me just really become very passionate about it and being an advocate and champion for it. On top of that, circumstances, lived experiences helped me to build what I call my resilience muscle or my resilience superpower. And those 2 things really motivate me and help me to keep moving day to day and inspiring change.
Julia, you're next. We're going backwards, and that's awesome, Brandy. And I also wanted to add that Brandy is a military spouse. So I think
Yes,
you've mentioned like traveling to all these different places has also helped you build your resilience.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I just wanted to
Very
give a
proud of my
shout out to you.
spouse. Thank you. And I know Julia is as well. So yes, thank you.
That's right, right. We've got
Right.
a lot of movers on the call. But yeah, so for me, I have to say, probably I discovered what I'm super passionate about at its core is kind of inspiring joy, but under that is kind of helping people discover meaning and purpose and connect to their surroundings, and in particular, kind of being on fire for fairness, I think, in the world. And for me, in terms of doing that through augmented reality, which might not sound like a real logical connection there, what we do is we help communities tell stories, and we tend to work with underrepresented communities. And so I just love that I get to actually learn so much working with these different communities, their history, their culture, how they see the world, and help them share that. And also weave that into a common story or narrative that is inclusive. So I think a lot of attention is given to augmented reality and these new forms of media that they can tell stories from all different points of view, which is true, and that's great. But how do we kind of bring ourselves together and weave those into a common narrative that everybody can see themselves in and feels part of? So anyway, so that's kind of what I feel like is my passion and what gets me up out of bed every morning. And then in terms of how I came about that, it's really been kind of a coming together of multiple threads through my life. I was started in architectural engineering and did that for 20 plus years. So was working in building design and construction, which is a very spatial field and uses spatial computing. So it's kind of building all of that. And then midlife, I made a career change, followed my passions. I keep saying I just kept pulling the string of what I like to do, and ended up getting a master's degree in Asian studies, which kind of got me into collective memory theory and worldview and understanding how we construct meaning in the world collectively. And so this kind of brings all that together. And I just want to give a shout out to my team because they're the real talent in terms of the digital art. I work with an amazing group of digital artists, 3D digital artists, coders, creative technologists. And so it's really kind of a bringing together all of these things. And I love the multidisciplinary nature of it and teamwork that's required. So.
That's great. It's so interesting, Julia. I feel like we all have different areas of expertise, and the way in which we come about them is so interesting. My route has been circuitous, and I started working in a hospital in San Francisco on programs with doctors, and spent 5 or 6 years in community outreach and doctor programs to help doctors communicate better with patients. And the communication piece was the part that I then brought to my next career, which was helping mostly tech leaders to present on main stage events for customers or industry events or things of that nature. Spent a while doing that. And it wasn't until about 7-ish years ago when things were when my career was pretty assured in that space, and things were getting really uncomfortable in our political world, and the Me Too movement came out, that I was thinking, what am I doing helping all what I call, somewhat affectionately call, pale, male, and stale leaders speak better on stage, when really what I am passionate about is empowering women, amplifying women. And as it turns out, there aren't that many women tech leaders, more and more over time. But I spent too much time, or a majority of my time, with one subset of the population, and thought, this is crazy. What I really want to do is work with women. And if I can't find women leaders, what I want to do is help those who are not yet leaders, who are maybe mid-managers or even possibly brand new in their roles, and to help them speak up, to share their ideas, share their voice. And the majority of us, including leaders, spend most of our times in meetings or in one-on-one conversations. So rather than putting all these resources and all this energy into on-stage presentations, let's get people to communicate better every day and speak up, share their voice, have more presence every day. So that was the impetus for writing my book. I had the idea for a while, and then luckily something called the pandemic came about, and so I no longer was commuting and had an extra few hours every day to write the book. And it's Zone of Genius, or is that what you're calling it, Zone of Genius? It feels a little hard to wear that title. But it is really true that when we come together and put our passions with what where we're spending our time, I think there, as we can see by this panel of women, we really can be wearing that title more confidently and benefiting others in the meantime, in the process.
Great, that's awesome. And we should own our zone of genius. We shouldn't what's the word, apologize for it, right? Because,
Yeah.
and yeah, all of us are, I believe everyone has a zone of genius, everyone has an area of expertise. And because we all have unique experiences and unique skills
Mhm.
that nobody else can replicate. So your journey, Julia's journey, Brandy's journey, Isabel's journey, Lisa's, mine, have all been unique, right? So that leads to our zone of genius. And I see Diana and Nancy have joined us as well. Diana's in San Francisco and Nancy is in Livermore. She's even explained where it is. It's the eastern edge of the San Francisco Bay Area. I love that, Nancy. So go ahead, Isabel and Lisa, let's share your zone of genius and how you found it. And one last thing, if people in the audience have found their zone of genius or their area of expertise, share it in the comments so we can learn as well, because I want this to be interactive. Even though you can't come on video, we'd love to hear what your zone of genius is. And Kim has joined us as well. Welcome, Kim. All right, go ahead, Isabel.
Yeah, welcome everybody in the chat. I want to comment, but for some reason I cannot find how to comment. But I see you, and I see people I know in the chat, so that's wonderful.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so glad you are here. I see Rachel and Nancy. I think Nancy, I know you. Yeah, so I can relate a lot to some of what the other women just shared, and it's interesting because it's what I do for my client, help them clarify their zone of genius. So I love the question, and for me, so I used to work like Hope. I used to work in the tech world for 10 years. It's how I came to California. I used to work at Yahoo. For several years in user experience research. And what really helped me clarify my zone of genius, there's a couple of things, but I was really observing myself and what was bringing me the most joy. And a little bit like Brandy said, I really believe when you are in your zone of genius, this is the thing that makes you the happiest, that bring you joy. And so following the compass of your joy and noticing for me at work and outside of work, what were the things that were lighting me up, where I felt in the flow, where I felt more confident, and I loved it. And I would notice when I was doing interview with users at Yahoo in particular, before I was doing like interview to understand how people use the websites and this kind of things. And I would feel in my element. Not necessarily about talking about the website, but asking deeper questions and listening to people and having empathy and nuances and all of this. I felt so happy doing this. And also I was noticing outside of work, I'm doing a lot of self-discovery. What are my talents? What is my life purpose? What is my personality type? And I would spend hours doing that and just having so much joy. So kind of putting the two together and other things, it's how I realize, oh, this kind of thing about helping people discover what they are here to do on the planet and what is their unique zone of genius, because I really believe, like you say, Naina, we all have one. And often we don't see it because this is what we do the most naturally. So we take it for granted. It's like the fish in the water. So it's why also sometimes we may need observation, feedback from other people. What do you see are my biggest qualities or different, personality work that I do with my client to help you reflect back. Sometimes you don't see it. You're like, oh no, that's so easy. That shouldn't be my zone of genius. If it's come to you easily, this is probably where it is. So this is how that, my process. And then because of that, I changed careers about 10 years ago to do what I do. And instead of helping people improve websites, which was not my zone of genius, now I help people discover what they are here to do.
Great. While everyone was going around and Nina was asking the question, I kept thinking, oh, wow, when they get to me, I don't want to talk about how I feel I have multiple zones of genius. I don't know if that sounds crazy, but it's good to hear everyone talk about how they've pivoted and shift. I'm a really big believer in that. So I guess for me, for my first zone of genius just started, ever since I was a kid, what I was passionate about, having a global career, living abroad. And I really did, I think I talked about on our last audio that we did for LinkedIn, I really did follow that through. I lived in 3 or 4 different countries. I managed an international business for a top bank. So I was able to do all those things and leverage all the skills I like to use, teaching people about how to manage their finances when they live abroad and helping people. So I guess for me, it always has to start with passion. That's number one. And then the second one is also, I'm a big believer, and you have to push yourself and get out of your comfort zone. Going back, I think, Hope, you talked about around 2007, 2008, that was the financial crisis. And I was like, wow, I've been in financial services a long time, but this is really big. How am I going to push myself and see what else I'm good at? I'm a big believer in that. Like, if okay, you're good at, okay, user experience, you're good at one thing, but if you really want to push yourself and find out other things you're good at, and sometimes it's not self evident. Sometimes, I don't know, for me, I feel like when I'm in it, like when I was in banking, when I was in it, hard to find another zone of genius outside. And then one of my employees said to me, she said, Lisa, well, you're really good at communicating. You're really good at teaching people how to do things. And I was like, oh, wow, this teaching thing in China, teaching executives and mid level managers. So that kind of morphed into the soft skill. And then again, getting the opportunity while I was researching my book on how to manage your finances, which turned out to be, Nina knows, like a whole different, I wasn't even thinking about giving seminars or doing public speaking, but it turned out that those were other zones of geniuses that I had. And then kind of looking at, what are you passionate with? I've always still been passionate about financial services and tech from the first beginning. And now, just kind of started dabbling, and now look at kind of where, interested in blockchain. Who knew, people are like, wow, I went and got certified in DeFi, which I'm no expert. So for me, I'm always, okay, well, how can I find a zone of genius in this? And then I was like, just on a call earlier about crypto. It's a crypto recruiting. They hold some every week, and people aren't even talking about blockchain anymore. Now everybody's moved to Chat GBT and AI. So it's like, okay, well, how do I find a zone of genius? And for me, I just keep chipping away. I'm passionate about it. I am interested in it. I'm interested in where financial services and technology meet. So for me, that's kind of the zone that I stay in. And then how can I morph into that? So that's kind of how I work.
I love that. I love that you shared that, Lisa. You're still discovering.
Yeah.
When you have a lot of, and that's fine. And sometimes you might think this is your zone of genius today, and then 5 years down the line, you might pivot. It evolves, right? Because we grow,
Yes.
our experiences change, right? But some of us, if we look back at our childhood, and there's something that we did a lot of, that might give you an idea what your zone of genius is. Like you said, you always wanted to live abroad, and I know you're passionate about supporting women globally. For me, like, I was always giving my girlfriends advice as a child, as a young girl, teenager, and my mom said, I think you're going to be a psychiatrist or psychologist, because you're all people are always telling you all their problems, boyfriend problems, and broken hearts, and it took me all these years to finally discover I really love working with women. I really like empowering them. I did a documentary film some years ago on
Right.
on gender violence in India, and that was my start of empowering women and giving them a voice, and spotlighting them. And then it kind of, I started the expat women to help international women, and I kept finding stuff, and finally I'd say my zone of genius, I mean, I wanted to find a platform, right? And finally LinkedIn has kind of shown me the way to build my light and showcase my expertise in others. So right now I'm really passionate about LinkedIn. In fact, my husband and my kids tease me. They say, all you do is talk about LinkedIn. But I'm so excited
It's
about the
good.
platform. Yeah, I know, but it's like they make fun
You're
of me. I
good
mean,
at it.
yeah. So but it evolved, right? You can see my journey, because now I'm empowering women to use LinkedIn, and I'm empowering women to find. And I see Tripti showing her, and I'm empowering women to find their zone of genius, build their thought leadership, and use LinkedIn as a platform. So it's taken me, this many years. I won't mention my age, but it's taken me a long time to finally. So I love that all of you, some of you have found it, some of you are discovering. And Isabel said it was, over all these years. Sometimes you work in corporate job. Sometimes it takes you to hate a job to actually find what you love, right? Because I studied biotechnology. Because my dad wanted me to be a doctor, engineer. So I compromised and said, okay, I'll go do my master's in science. And I worked in a lab. And I'm not a lab person. I can't listen to people's stories in the lab and help them. I'm like looking under the microscope. I hated it. But the perks were great. It was only because I got laid off that it led me to a new journey and a new life. So sometimes, you have to go through those bad experiences to know what you want. So again, welcome to everyone in the audience. For all my speakers, if you have your phone available, you can respond to comments. You go to the LinkedIn event page on your phone and you can respond to comments. You cannot do it on live stream because for some reason, every time I'm responding, it's taking me to the YouTube. I'm responding on YouTube because it's streaming on YouTube. So that's one tip. If you've just joined us, introduce yourself in the comments. Let us know where you're calling in from. If you have a zone of genius or an area of expertise, or if you're trying to find it, let us know. If you have questions, I want this to be interactive. It cannot bring you on stage because StreamYard is set up in such a way that we can't add people once we start. But calling in from.
Oh, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
That was me. I'm sorry.
Oh no! Don't just turn off the volume. You can be on the thing. Just keep the volume off. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't want to hear my own voice, but that's important. All right. So with that, let's move on to maybe talking of So there's the theme for International Women's Day is embracing equity. And you don't, you could be working at a company and focusing on embracing equity there. And they say equity, when they talk about equity, it isn't about just equality. It's about bringing everyone up to the same level, right? So, and I know it's a kind of complicated topic. So I'm going to if anyone wants to talk more about how people can embrace equity, whether it's in the corporate world, whether it's in the community, if anyone wants to share. I know it's a little bit of a complicated topic, but go ahead if anyone wants to jump in and add to how can we use this year's theme, embrace equity, in the work we do, or in the volunteer work we do in the companies, or what people in the audience could do. Go ahead.
I would just say that embracing equity is a positive for everyone. And I know sometimes some may look at it as a lack, or they're not getting, or there's something's being taken away from them or from the culture that they represent. And that's really not. It's really a positive for everyone to make sure that things are as they should be. So if we come in with the mindset and the intent that this is a positive and a benefit, I think it'll be less intimidating for others to embrace equity and to really see some true change. That's my 2 cents on it.
I love that. Thank you. Thanks, Brandy, for sharing that. Anyone else want to add on to what Brandy said, or share their own perspectives?
Sure.
Well,
yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. No, as we were talking about equity, just 2 things popped into my head. One is the Madeleine Albright comment. What is it? I think it was her who coined it. Maybe I heard her say, there's a special place in, where for women who don't support women, because we need to be part of it as well. And I think for me, I always want to push the button and ask the question of people who are not supportive of equity, why not? It kind of goes back to, I used to live in San Francisco, and a conversation I had one day, I was having drinks, had a conversation. He was an employment lawyer. And so we were talking, and I don't know what I asked him, like, do people sue or something? I asked him, and he goes, you would be surprised when women start making a certain amount of money, when they start attaining a certain amount of success in the workplace. He goes, it's true how certain people don't think they should have the bonuses. They don't think they have the salary. So I always think, ask the question, why don't you think that there should be equity across the board? I think we might be surprised at some of the answers we hear from people. So that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, Lisa, I think that, there are all kinds of biases that we all have, and that there's that fear, hopefully, that is dying out, of this idea that it's a finite pie. So if I am moving up, then if I'm helping out, if I'm helping others, then that is threatening my position, my ability, which everyone here knows is complete BS. It's not finite. The more that we can help, the more that we actually can gain. But more than that, just the whole the industry, the community, the environments that we're in will change. And one tactical tip, strategic tip really, that I would have to Lisa's point around creating allies, supporting one another, is if you're in the corporate environment in meetings, And especially if you know that there are people or that you or a small group are the onlys, either you're the only women in the meeting, the only people of color, the only people that look like you, and whatever characteristic that includes, is to create a bond, create some version of pact beforehand of like, hey, we know how this goes. We know that the men do all the talking. Let's do a good job of amplifying what each other says, or creating relevance. Say, yeah, oh, so Isabel said that, and I want to really emphasize her point. It was good because of this. Some version of amplification. And similarly, what I call a back pocket statement, so that when we hear mansplaining or heap-eating, where they take the idea that we said or that one of our colleagues said, that we have a back pocket statement. And it could be something along the lines of, oh, Mike, interesting that you, it's interesting to hear that you support Brandy's idea. I really liked it when she said it in the last meeting. So some version of like, let's anticipate that it will happen, not to be negative, but just, if we've seen it happen, we know it will happen again. And let's then create a pact and create some statements that we can say to credit the people who really deserve the credit and put into check those who are running with our ideas.
I love that.
That's a good one for sure.
Yeah, I love what you said, Hope, also about the amplifying each other's voices. It reminds me of a client I'm working with right now, and she's a senior director in product marketing, and she works in a tech company. And at that level, there are not many women, and also there are not many people with a style of leadership, because there are different style of leaderships. Beyond even differences in gender or other things, and she has a style that is more behind the scenes, meaning like she's very good at consulting people behind the scenes to make stuff happens, and not just because she's a woman, because it's her superpower to do that, but it's not really seen. And she told me how there was a colleague, somebody in another department, because a manager wasn't really seeing a strengths, that advocated for her and send him an email and say, wow, without her, we wouldn't have succeeded at that project, and how a difference that made. So I was just thinking about that.
I'll throw in my 2 cents too. So, like I said, I'm on fire for fairness. And I think that's like a concept that is really the equity concept, but is in a less politically charged term a lot of times. And it's something I think we all learn to be fair and to share. Like, we're from day one as kids, we're programmed to be fair in our classrooms and our lives, and to share. And fundamentally, that is what equity is about, is giving everybody access and helping them to have that access, or whatever their starting point is, right? And so I think that's kind of how I talk about it and think about it. And I think that's a kind of a gut level sensibility that we all have and are taught from an early age. In terms of in my work, like I said, we work a lot with communities, and we use what's called a placemaking process, which is very much of a process of inclusion, and we focus more on the process as opposed to the outcome. The outcome almost doesn't matter, except that it does. But and that process is what I've learned with that, and with having my own company, is I do find that you have to be very intentional about being inclusive, because the process, the project, your day-to-day life is very busy. And so it's very easy to just kind of get, caught up in getting something done. And so it's really important to think about, like, if you focus on the process, as opposed to the outcome. And I know we don't always have that luxury in our businesses or whatnot, but if you focus on the process, the outcome will take care of itself, and that it'll ultimately be a better outcome by making that table bigger. Like, Nina, I love your analogy of making the table bigger and bringing more chairs to the table. and bringing a folding chair if there's not one there for you. So that's something I've learned, is to really try to be intentional about it and go out and search for those other points of view and make sure you're inviting them into the process. So.
Wonderful. Every one of you shared such valuable nuggets. I mean, I think anyone listening will, this will give them a better sense of how to embrace equity. Before I add my comments, I just want to recognize a few more people. Say hello. Neetu is calling in from Livermore. She's Chief Business Officer of Litmus. Tripti shared her zone of genius, which was during the pandemic. She started making greeting cards with watercolor paintings, and I've known Tripti a long time. In fact, Tripti and I met at a cartoon drawing workshop in Bangalore, India, many years ago. So Tripti, your zone of genius, you were working on your zone of genius then, because she was very artistic, and I'm glad you discovered it during the pandemic. And Rekha wanted to build on Hope's idea, and she says, to take a leaf out of a very effective male manager, have mini meetings with allies, supporters prior to the main event so you can be prepared. That's a great tip. That's really good tip. So the first goal is finding allies and supporters, and then having them help you amplify your voice and your ideas. So that's fantastic. Thank you, Rekha, for sharing that. And talking about the bigger picture of International Women's Day, I know people are still saying, "Oh my gosh, International Women's Day or Women's History Month." Even my son, one of my sons, he was like, "Why do you guys need a International Women's Day?" Women, people are questioning it, but when you look deeper, we do need it, because there's still a gender gap, right? Whether it's women in the C-suite, whether it's the pay, and in a city, or like the San Francisco Bay Area, I mean, not city, or in Silicon Valley, I mean, there's still a gender gap in tech and in the pay structure. So we're supposed to be one of the most progressive states, and it's still happening here. So, and again, another thing I've noticed is people only talk about all this during Women's History Month or International Women's Day, just like with Black History Month, right? It's just that one month, people, companies will do some activities around it, and then it's forgotten for the next 12 months. So it's really important. That's why these themes like embracing equity, I think last year was break the bias, that companies, individuals continue to follow that theme through the year, right? And I think one of you mentioned about women empowering other women, right? It's very important to do that as well, and not see others as competitors but collaborators, right? That's so important, because I think so much more can be brought about by collaboration. There's enough. If you're then there, I think there's enough rewards and enough. If you're a business, I know that's me. If you're a business owner, there are enough clients out there for all of us to get hired. So I would just add that as well. And for women who want to put other women down, which I hopefully is changing. I think a lot of that came from because they were put down, they saw other women might prevent them from climbing the ladder, right? Because there's only maybe one spot for a woman in the C-suite, on the board. And the last thing I want to add is, a lot of companies might hire women, they're focused on diversity, but then they're not providing women the tools to climb up the corporate ladder, right? Because it's not just about onboarding and hiring more women. You have to provide them with mentorship and sponsorship, so that we can see more women in the C-suite, because there's a huge gender gap in the C-suite. And I know it because that's one of my target audiences. And when I do a search on LinkedIn, I mean, on every page on LinkedIn, there'll be 1 to 2 women, whether it's CFOs, CEOs, CPOs. It it's really very disheartening. So we need to have these conversations. So with that, is there something, because I can go on asking questions, but is there something you wanted to talk about in terms of amplifying, spotlighting, celebrating women that I haven't covered in my questions? Does anyone want to add something about how we can amplify, spotlight, celebrate women, or do anything else so we can continue this conversation and the effort to feature and highlight and support women, throughout the year, and anything you yourself are doing, or would like to do or have done? So I just throw it open. Anyone just jump in, whoever wants to, and yeah, go ahead. Ho.
This might indicate a lot about my personality, but I find that checklists and scheduling things works the best for me. So even though my intention is always support others, unless I put it as a checklist of I'm going on LinkedIn today to amplify voices or to put comments, then I don't necessarily do it. So I do it because I do add it to my to-do list. I've also joined a group of like-minded people. It's I don't know many of them. I've gotten to know them, where we now will put out a link to some of our posts and say, hey, would you amplify this? This is important to me, and I would love your support in commenting or spreading the word. And I think the more we can do that, first of all, the more we can ask, but also the more that we can create a daily or at least weekly habit of carving out time to support others. I was really struck, Nina, by your stat that there are more men on LinkedIn than women, and it's the only social medium where that is the case. And if we can start amplifying each other's voices, hopefully we can change, if not the numbers who are involved on LinkedIn, at least the amount of content that we create and the amount that visibility we can have.
I just, before anyone, thank you so much. I love the idea about the checklist, Hope, because you're right. Because and it's natural, right? We're focused on building our own and sharing our own expertise, and we all have to make money, especially if we are entrepreneurs, right? Or even if you work for a company. I know Brandy gets really busy with work. I know it, Brandy. But one thing, so two things I want to add. One is, if that group, just make sure it's not a pod on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is against pods where people are commenting on each other's posts, because if it's like, it's a planned thing. And again, if it's a group of people that are all in a similar field, they're all professional women, and you're just helping each other, that's fine. But you can sometimes see, if you look at someone's post and there are all these comments, and it'll just be great post, good job, that that's a pod. That means they're paying, or they're part of this, and all they're doing is like commenting, and very often they're not even in the same field. Like it's somewhere in some other country, just to get those statistics up. So that's, and again, so just want to, for anyone listening, do not join pods. If it's a group of women who have similar interests, as Hope said, with like-minded women, it's fine. And and especially if you think your post will bring value to the others in your group, that's fine. But just stay away from any, just because, again, statistics or vanity metrics on your LinkedIn post don't really help, because even if no one's commenting, right, but you've added value, the right people are going to see it. Because that's another statistic I wanted to throw out. There's over 900 million professionals on LinkedIn, but only 1 to 3 to 4% are actually posting content, or even commenting, engaging, or liking. They're just lurkers, right? So do not be disheartened if you create this really amazing post and you just see no one has commented or engaged on it, because people are reading it. They just, and maybe it's imposter syndrome, because many people, you spoke about pale men or something earlier. No, LinkedIn used to be known as a platform for dudes in suits, right? So that has scared a lot of women off. It's like, oh my gosh, there are all these men, men in suits, and I don't belong here. And if I post, or even if I comment, I'm going to, sound silly, and people are going to judge me. So don't, just be your authentic self and put yourself out there. Even if, like Tripti, you're doing your greeting cards. If you're on LinkedIn, you could share photographs of your greeting cards and tell your story, how you found your zone of genius, and how the pandemic, kind of pivoted this new career for you. So I would say that, just start, because you want to be in that 1 to 5%, because then you're going to get seen. You're going to, and then also the other thing is, as Hope said, comment on other people's posts. It's not just about you, right? So comment on people's posts that are in your zone of genius, because that's your target audience. I mean, I do occasionally not occasionally, I do often, when I see someone needs a little push, maybe no one's commented on their post, and I think they've done a fantastic post, or they're looking for a job, they got laid off, or they're hiring, I'll comment just so that their post gets more visibility. Or even this event, I know all of you shared the event, right? It gets more visibility, so also people who can benefit from it can attend events like this and be inspired. All right, anyone else want to add anything? to the question about how to celebrate, spotlight, amplify women.
Yeah, I want to add something, and it's a different angle to it, but I think complementary to what Nine Hope you said about it's for me, and it's even LinkedIn, but even beyond LinkedIn, how can I be even more myself and sharing my authentic voice as a woman, and being also more vulnerable, to be a model for a different way of showing up in the world, because we are often very use conditioned to way of show up in the world that is more masculine. It's probably also more white. I mean, there is different layers of it, not just the gender. And so how working through it is also for me showing up in my newsletter or stuff, while showing up in my own authenticity and vulnerability that may look different, that has different flavor. I'm gonna be very passionate. I'm gonna share about vulnerable things, but in a way to inspire other people and to be okay with that. So for me, there is a place also of the more, it's not like such a broader impact, but the more individually we give ourselves the freedom to be expressed as we are, we also encourage others, including women, to do the same. So I'm a big proponent of that.
I think for me, two things I've been thinking about. I don't know if anyone else saw it, going along what you had said, Nina, about the statistics. The statistic, it was in, I think, Bloomberg or something. Um, Gen X women are leaving the workforce like in mass. It was very interesting. They're tired, they're frustrating, the childcare, the caregiving, and I just thought, oh my gosh, this is it was like a big number. So I was thinking about that. First of all, what are they going to do? Hopefully they're going to open their own companies or pivot to something else. And then I was also like, okay, if women are leaving, then what happens to, I always think, what happens to the generation behind us, right? What is that? What is the impact for that? And what does that kind of mean? Especially as we're in, the last 3 years, well, one of the very few positives, if any, is the whole idea of the workplace has changed, right? And how we manage our life. Who was it? The Shark Tank guy who just said millennials or who? And it's not just millennials. They don't want to work in the office anymore. Like, get with it. As I'm in New York City, and it's taken our mayor and some other people a while to latch on to the idea that everyone is not going back into the office. The whole face of the workplace is going to change. So that's something that I kind of think about, and how and what challenges will that bring to, again, so many women leaving the workplace. So the generation behind us and the women that are still in the workplace, how are we kind of managing all that and the effect of that? The other thing, the thought that I thought of, and I think of this in terms of International Women's Day, and when I lived in China, we used to always celebrate it. And I remember there's this annual conference I go to. I won't tell what it's a women's conference, but the topic was going to be salary equity. And so that was a discussion with the women that I were teaching, like I said, middlemen, and they're like, what is the big deal? I always hear that in America, you talk about it. What is the big deal? What is the barrier? Why has it taken you so long? And I think about, as I'm looking to pivot and shift, wow, we're at the point now, some states, the salary has to be visible. And I'm like, wow, why did it take us so long to get to this? But if we can get to that, hopefully we can, get to equity and parity in some of the other areas in the workplace. So that's kind of what I'm, think about in terms of women, and what, I always have my eye on what's kind of if we want to amplify and celebrate women, but what's kind of going on in the workplace in mass. So that statistic really kind of hit me.
Yeah, I think, so I've been working virtually for about, since like 2007 and stuff, mostly out of necessity because of moving and military spouse and moving from locations and everything. And so COVID just allowed our company to be more out, that we're a virtual team. And now it's a thing. We're like, we've got this. We know how to do this. And I don't know. I mean, for me, I feel like obviously that's the way I like to work. I've had to work that way, and I enjoy it. And overall, I feel like it's an advantage for, or it can be a better situation for women. I think because I find that interactions with whether that's colleagues or potential customers or whatever tend to be more one-on-one. And so you can be getting to kind of Isabel's point of being a bit more authentic. You're not kind of like surrounded by this culture that you need to fit into or situation that you need to fit into. And I think that authenticity kind of works well in that format. And so I guess I'm kind of hopeful actually that beyond just the logistics that I think the virtual work situation has enabled many women to balance their life a bit more. I think there's actual cultural, it's a cultural situation that I think women can potentially thrive a bit better in terms of dealing with the folks that they need to. So I don't know. I'm hopeful about it.
I'm certainly in agreement with you, Julia. I've worked now for the last 7.5 years remotely, and it truly is a benefit work-life balance wise and culturally. So I definitely agree there for sure. Yeah.
Great. Glad to hear it.
Awesome. Thank you. Those are all really valuable pieces of advice and tips. So we are almost done. So I'm going to ask the audience if they have any questions, type it in the chat box if you're on LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube. And if you're watching the recording, you can, also type them and we'll come back and check and again, introduce yourself. So I'm going to ask each of you to share how people can find you. And so 3 things: how people can find you or connect with you. Second one is if you have one final tip. Oh my gosh, something fell in my room, but you can't. So one final tip, any like a takeaway, something actionable that people can do. And then finally, if you have anything coming up, you have an offer, you have, I know Hope has her book, anything, if you do, or Brandy, if you're hiring, anything, you can share that very briefly. I want to keep it quick, and then you can also share the link on all these 3 platforms so that people who are watching it later can find you and learn about you. But right now we just have you very quickly go around the room. Let's start with Lisa, Isabel, and Hope, and Julia, and then very quick 3 things. So how people can find you, one quick actionable tip that people can take away and implement if you have one, and third, if you have an offer coming up, anything coming up, one thing. Go ahead, Lisa.
Sure. Oh my God, I just forgot everything. The best way, I'm following Nina and doing more and more LinkedIn for everything. So look me up on LinkedIn, Lisa Renee Mitchell. That's number 1. And I think a quick thing is Nina has been talking a lot about getting a seat at the table. Some people say bring your own chair. I'm kind of along with that. Bring your own chair, or kind of scooch up and ask someone to kind of, move at the table and make room for you. I kind of like that one, actually. And I do. I kind of like that one. And, making everyone at the table, especially the men, kind of make room for me. And the last one is I do have an offer, as I had said before on your audio link, though I did it today. I just need to do some marketing. I created the link on February 22nd at 7:30. I'm just anyone who's thinking about moving abroad to be an expat or digital nomad. It's for women, but I welcome everyone. So I'm just going to do like 10 financial steps that you need to take before you move abroad. And I'll put the links everywhere. Thank you so much, Nina.
You're welcome. Thanks, Lisa. And I want to actually add, I didn't say finding a seat at the table, though I love your thing of pushing the men out of the
I got that from somebody else.
Yeah, but I was like, no. I spoke about building your own table. Why?
Okay.
Why
right.
wait? Yeah, right. Yeah. Why wait for a seat at the table?
Even better.
Build your own table. You all have a zone of genius. All of you have already built or are building it, right? Because you're already doing amazing work. That is it. When you're showcasing your expertise, and then you're highlighting or featuring other people or teaching them how to do whatever you're teaching, you built your table. So you don't need anyone else to invite you to have a seat.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Isabel.
You got to change that thinking, right?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. So for me to find me also, LinkedIn is probably the best. So Isabelle Perichou, you look me on LinkedIn and you'll see there is my link to my website and all kind of videos and different things. In terms of one tip, going back to finding your zone of genius, if this is something you're wondering, one of the way you could do that is you can write a journal about what do you love. Ask yourself, I love, and just list all the things, like, take maybe 10 minutes and you say, I love, and just write down, I love doing this, I love this. And it can be anything. Don't worry about it has to be work related, like I love cooking, I love hiking outside. It's just going to activate the part of you of what you love. And you can also do that with a friend. Ask each other, what do you love? And the person is going to ask you for 5 minutes, what do you love? And you answer, what do you love? To help you connect with your zone of genius. That can be a simple way to do that. In terms of something that I can share, actually something to help you also clarify your zone of genius and your purposeful work. I have a free report that helps you do that with 8 specific tools. It's called Your Inner Compass to Your Purposeful Work, which is really your zone of genius that you have already inside of you. So you go to brilliantseeds.com /compass. And I'll share it also in the comment, and you can have the free report with some useful tips.
I love that, brainstorming all the things you love. It's so simple yet so profound, and some of the best tips are things that we could easily do, and we just don't necessarily do them. So that's fun. Yes, you can find me on LinkedIn, or my website is my name, which is hopetimberlake.com. Anyone wants, so the book has a lot of exercises around building confidence, but also honing your voice, whether it's the content or the actual physical nature of eye contact, gestures, vocal things of that nature. So if anyone's interested, it's on my website, hopetimberlake.com /book, or Amazon or similar audio e-reader. Paperback. And I have a newsletter that comes out about every 3 or 4 weeks that has 3 really concrete, actionable tips. It's very lighthearted and fun. There's some fun images and things in there. So if anyone's interested, please let me know. And most of all, I'm here to support people, and specifically happy to answer questions. If someone has a communications related question and wants to ask, please do either email me or find me on LinkedIn, and I'm more than happy to respond in the vein of supporting other women.
Great. Okay, well, probably the easiest way to find me is on LinkedIn. I'm pretty good about checking my messages every day, but just connect with me there. You're certainly welcome to reach out to me on our website, which is Novaby. That's my name there, novaby.com. I'm on the other side of the info and make it real, so that's an option as well. But LinkedIn's probably the easiest. In terms of my tip, I would say what I'm discovering is everybody is very eager to get back out now. Like, I feel like since the holidays, there's been like this shift that even though people haven't been scared about COVID for a while, they're finally getting their habits changed again and wanting to get back out. And I'm noticing a lot of voids in terms of communities reconvening. And so I've been kind of stepping into one of those voids in my field. So I feel like it's an opportunity to kind of bring people together again and be kind of at the core of that. So that would be my tip, is look for those voids and communities that want to be regathering, and just step into organizing that. It's fun, and it's a great way to get reconnected with folks. So in terms of offers, I don't have anything concrete, but if anybody is interested in learning about augmented reality and maybe how it can help with your marketing or whatever, I would be happy to, provide some education on that, and just, set up a time to chat about it. So feel free to reach out to me.
Awesome. So you can reach me on LinkedIn, of course. Website just got up, brandystevens.com, and offerings course will be there coming soon by the end of this month, focusing on self-care for the remote working woman. And so that will be my tip. We do a lot as women. Some of us are moms and aunties and everything, and et cetera, workers, professionals, execs. So focusing on self-care, making sure that we are good to ourselves so we can continue to give ourselves to the world and shine our light. I think that's really important. So that's my tip, making sure we take care of ourselves.
That's very
Fantastic.
true.
Love. Yeah. Great, great. Everyone's great tips and great. And congratulations, Brandy. I didn't know about this new,
Thank you.
yeah, venture. Very cool. So all of you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I also have a YouTube channel, and I think it's streaming on that. One tip I give you, right now, you can do it right now. You could take a screenshot of this, all of us on live, and including my dear panelists. You could all take a screenshot, and you could share it on LinkedIn. Or if you're not very, I mean, I'm assuming everyone here is mostly on LinkedIn, but if you're not, whatever social media platform, Facebook, and you can share some of the takeaways or your own insights about the event that we did today. You can tag us if you're on LinkedIn, so we will comment as well. So that's my tip. Sometimes you don't need to look for content. The content is staring
Mm,
right at your face, and not only are you showcasing your passion or zone of genius, because obviously you all attended this workshop or this live because you're interested in amplifying, spotlighting, and celebrating women. So you could say that. And also you're spotlighting all of us because you're talking about us and showing us on your whatever social media page or newsletter, whatever you use. So continue to do that. And I have all the amazing women who are featured here are members of my Her Success Society, which is a membership for women like all of them who are either ready thought leaders or looking to find their zone of genius, their expertise, and elevate, amplify, and spotlight it. So it's a group of amazing women. All these women have become my friends. Some of them I've met in person. Some of them, hopefully, Brandy. I think Lisa, I met you in person, and
mhm.
Julia and Brandy I have not yet met. So hopefully that day will come.
Yes.
And I also have, as I said, an add-on to Her Success Society, which is the LinkedIn Thought Leadership Academy, which you can Google and YouTube how to use LinkedIn. But if I have learned, I've used LinkedIn since 2007, and I've been very successful with hosting events. My documentary film, I leveraged it to really get a lot of success with both those and my business. So I'm now teaching other people how to use it. And LinkedIn is changing, and LinkedIn is really pushing us to show up. It's providing us with so many easy tools and features. I've used Instagram, I've used Facebook, and I find that LinkedIn has the best tools, and it has the network that we're looking for, which is professional, purpose-driven women, men, allies. All right. So with that, I want to thank you all for joining us. We will share the links in the comments. Follow everyone who's here on the stage, and follow each other as well, because I see a lot of you in the comment. And have a wonderful International Women's Day. And this recording will also be available for you to watch. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Have a good day.
Naina. You are the best at bringing